And that leads to the next mystery, which
Mm-hmm.
is entering cosmic consciousness or conscious lucidity, silent emanations. So entering cosmic consciousness or conscious lucidity, silent emanations.
Yes. So we're kind of just doing that right now.
Yep.
You know, it's just being in the awe, the wonder, and the love. You enter into these spaces which do reside now beyond timelessness, beyond the eternal, and beyond this transcendental place, where there is a completely different emanation than what we experience here on earth below. And, you know, as you're going through these rites of passage, you can absolutely become able to redirect and connect with it to a certain extent at will, which is kind of what I'm feeling as we talk about this. And there is this grand peace and silence there. One of the spaces in here that I feel states it well says from you know, quoting from The Fragrance of the Mystical Rose, however, by so doing, the soul has become a portion of the many and the few. Simply by being willing to be utilized, the soul allows itself to be utilized, which is exactly what the soul is required to do in order to fulfill the purpose of this energy's coming. Disregard what others are or are not doing. Emanate. That is the function of this state. Now that we have refined, we discovered what we emanated, and we've refined it through these other rites of passage. Now we are to emanate from this higher sphere that we are now being introduced into.
And another thing that you wrote here was, the moment the initiate focuses on others, the energy becomes dispersed and the state can be lost in that moment.
Yes.
So other people's reactions, their thoughts, what we think they might think about us, our goal
All irrelevant.
is just to remain in that emanation.
Yes. Because when you are bringing that emanation through your consciousness into your physical construct, you are bringing that higher emanation into the world. And literally, what others may think of it, what others may perceive of it, is pollution. You are simply to emanate. That emanation in and of itself brings evolution into the planetary sphere and is of great value, not just to yourself, to the entire planetary sphere. We learn.
We may not be able to see the effects of our emanation.
No, we don't.
And
Usually we don't.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant to see it. Because what we learn is, for lack of a better term, is that we are but slaves. A lot of people aren't comfortable with that. But the further you move into the will of God, the more comfortable you are with, you know, I'm just going to do what God wants me to do. I'm his slave. So I don't have to understand the mysteries and the mysterious workings of everything in order to do this. we do continue to expand our understanding as we go. But a great deal of understanding comes from silently being that, the emanation of it.
And with us maintaining our energy, it may be the only way that people in our life can experience this higher consciousness reality.
Yes. And a lot of times, the energy of it is serving a purpose that goes well beyond what we may have thought or believed words could do. Because a lot of times words are much less effective than emanation itself. And so we don't need to express it in words. We just need to emanate it. Be that. And we're bringing a whole new potential into this realm by so doing.
And as is, what spoke to me too in this chapter is to keep it simple. All that we're required to do is to maintain this energy. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Let's keep it simple. Just maintain the energy.
We're like, we're a point of light. And we join, hopefully, as hundreds of thousands or millions of points of light. And we hold that point of light for God on the earth.
And the very next thing I wrote was, remember, we're not special, unique, or called above anyone else, but we do have a responsibility and purpose.
Yes.
Hey, we've got a responsibility and purpose? Okay, cool, let's do that. It's not that hard. It's a little focus and stuff, but we're not above anyone else or special or unique. All souls are amazing and beautiful. But it's not different.
Well, and that is an important point because we have to watch as we travel through all spiritual progress, but the rites of passage and the initiations into the mysteries, for spiritual pride. Spiritual pride is a hindrance and an obstacle, just as any other kind of pride. And one way to keep that in check, remember that everything that we have, become, or are is a gift. It's been received. We have nothing to claim as our own because everything that we have is a gift from God. And we have to humble ourselves in the remembrance of, but for the grace of God go I, which is a much more profound statement than people often realize because it's made in passing and very haphazardly. But what does that mean? But for the grace of God go I. The very seed of our spiritual journey was placed in our heart by God himself. We should have gratitude for the fact that God placed within our hearts this yearning to know him and to seek him, that he also graced us with the energizing this hunger that we have followed. There are many, many people in the world who have not received that grace. Everything that we have received since that time in this journey through these initiations and now rites of passage is all gift. It's all given to us. It's not given to us because we are inherently deserving of such a gift. It's given to us through the simple love and mercy of our Creator. We did nothing to deserve any of it. We received so much assistance to this point from God himself, but from all of his helpers, from all of the souls who have loved us through many lifetimes, who have come in and played out karma with us so that we could achieve what we are hoping to achieve, to all of the spiritual teachers, the guardians, and the guides who have given freely of their energies and time to bring us forward. There's no room for pride in this path. It's all been given. It's all a gift.
And
We
the
have
only
received it all. None of it is from any inherent goodness or virtue within any of us. It is only coming because of God's mercy towards all of his creation. And but for the grace of God, go all of us,
and
because
so
there are many who have not received as many graces as we have, who are doing much more than we are doing, or much further along, who are utilizing what's been given to them with much deeper and profound use.
so on the same
Spiritual pride is very bad for us to engage in, just as any other pride. You have to remember, pride goeth before all falls. Pride, so any kind of pride. So we see this a lot in spiritual and religious circles. Spiritual pride also goes before all falls. So ground yourself in humility, because you are receiving gifts and you haven't deserved them or earned them. You do have to pass through rites. You have to earn different attainments by making certain progress. But again, even that which we appear to earn is all gift.
and so on the
And
same
ironically, I'm sorry.
oh well the same there's two sides of the coin. Is so the only difference between us and other souls is our acceptance of these gifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, we don't have to feel unworthy of this, because
No.
our soul is not special, like we just said. It's like everyone
Yes.
everyone else's. It's just we happen to accept these, and so because we accepted these, there's certain responsibilities we have. So it's not because we're better, but it's also because we are working with whatever we're working with. We got to realize we're not unworthy, because we're the same as every other wretched
Right.
soul out there. So everyone
It's
everyone
interesting
deserves. So,
but remain grounded in humility. But again, like what you're talking about there, I do hear from a lot of people, and they'll say, when they start having mystical experiences, they'll say, well, but why me? And I always find that question confounding, because it's indicating that the appearance of these experiences foretells of some specialness, when in fact the question isn't why me, because this is the nature of the human soul. It's why do you cast away from yourself gifts that are freely given from a God who desires our purification and our betterment? So it's something which is more of, why not me? Why not everyone? Because God created all of us. This is not a path which is delineated out just for highly unusual souls. It's a path that has been followed from the beginning of human existence, delineated for all. So it is not, there's no question of worthiness. There's no question of, well, why me? It's, okay, so I've received this. What am I going to do with it? That's where the energy needs to be going. But see, do you see how even in the contemplation of the question, we end up changing the direction of the alteration in the soul? Because the question then becomes, that's Pete. Pete. We change the direction of it because we are then confining this process to being only attainable by somebody who is special, when it's very clear, even just from the historical spiritual record, that this is and always has been there. We see it in the writings of the from all the different faiths, but going all the way back to ancient Egypt, we see it in the writings, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. We see it in the writings of Hermes, the divine Pymander, laying out the purification path. You know, so in the most ancient of civilizations, we see it all the way back. This is not new. It's not something that's reserved for the few. This is the key to what every single one of us has come here to do, to progress through this stage, which is this human incarnational stage of our soul existence, so that when we do cross over from this life, that we're not repeating, we're not karmically circling and doing it over and over again. And so, you know, if you want to change the question to, well, why me? Because you don't want to keep doing this. God doesn't want you to keep doing this. You know, but you see how, just going back to how the question changes the alteration, because even the question itself is denoting specialness above your fellow man. And that's pride seeping its way in to the mystical experience itself. So when we alter that back to where it should be, which is, I have now experienced this. I need to alter my emanation. I need to alter my emanation to become this silent, loving emanation that comes from God. We are now actually moving forward in the path of the rites of passage. Whereas if a lot of people will get stuck. Well, why me? Why me? It's like, well, that's an invalid question, which literally gets you stuck in an ego thrust, and it completely almost like annihilates or empatizes the real purpose of the experience. And the reason why the instruction is included in this particular mystery is because there is a temptation to spiritual pride during these processes. And it's important to remember, we are not special or different. This is something attainable to the human soul. It's for all, because it's our process.
And you speak of this state becoming the norm in future generations and higher states. And emanation is the goal at this stage, allowing ourself to be utilized. Just remain in the field of consciousness and allow it to flow through our spirit and body to whomever it is to affect, and for however long. When it comes, just be. The state
Yeah.
will become the norm in future generations and higher states. So it's kind
Yes.
of like the raising of all souls. We're kind of
Hmm.
helping out in God's process of doing that, because we're all going to go there, hopefully, no,
Right.
hopefully.
And if you can think of um, this realm of emanation being above this line that I'm delineating here, and the realm of human life is below, and I want you to look at my hands, because the realm of human life is just a lot of activity, sometimes pointless activity, sometimes purposeful activity. But above that line, the realm of emanation is just a silent field. So the soul is literally being stilled from this, what we're used to down here, which is this constant karmic circling activity, pointless activity, bumping off of each other's karma, poof, poof, poof. But above, it's all silent emanation. It's a completely different expression of being. And it's very important to grasp it in order to move on to the next level in the rites of passage.
And as we're about to jump into the next one, I think it's important too that we're we're worthy souls on this path. This is a roadmap on a journey, but there's certain purified states that we're not allowed into for a reason. It's to keep
Right.
those realms pure. And so that's why we need to be initiated um, energetically, spiritually, so that we can get to that next state, so that we can understand more of
Well,
who
and see,
God
I would correct one thing that you're saying, and I think that you're trying really hard
is. Mhm.
to say something, and I understand the reasoning for it, but it's not correct.
Okay.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're unworthy seekers of God. And it's important for the soul to become comfortable with the fact that, of course, we are not worthy to stand in the holy presence of God. And yes, we are kept out of certain places because we have to become compatible to these other places so that we don't become an invasion into these fields. It's no different than the boundaries that are held between the lower hell realms and the earthly realms. We can't allow for invasions that are not approved of by God's will to enter into these spheres. The higher spheres do not allow for invasions of mortal energies into their fields. I would suggest that none of us are worthy in any real way. And we would do better to become comfortable with being unworthy than trying to appeal to the self-image or the self-esteem of a soul trying to travel this path and give them what they want, which is, it's okay, I'm worthy. It's no, it is okay, but it's okay even though you are not worthy, I'm not worthy. None of us will ever be truly worthy in that sense. If the closer you move towards God, the more you recognize the sheer gift of spiritual experience and spiritual progression. It is a sheer gift of God. God bestows it upon us because he is merciful, because he is love, and he loves us. It's not because, I mean, you're almost wasting your time trying to get to a place where you feel worthy, because none of us will ever really be that. So focus more on the fact and getting comfortable with that we're all unworthy, but that's okay, because we achieve these things through God's mercy, not through our own merit. It is, the very mystery of the redemption itself, which is Christ's sacrifice on the cross, which is that this is offered to us through no merit of our own, but merely through and by the love of God. Become comfortable with that. And then you will find yourself able to proceed more quickly, because you will stop trying to be worthy and you will just accept what is and go from there.
So no soul is any more worthy than any other soul.
No. But whatever levels of those things exist, those would be within the mysteries of God and for him to disclose or determine. But we are not, we're never going to, even just, again, wanting to be worthy alters the alteration. You see, when we focus on, just as we just talked about the other thing, which is the spiritual pride, but why me? And how even the question alters the entire thrust of what this passage is intended to do. This does the same. Just feeling that you need to have this assurance that you are worthy is an unworthy quest. It's an offshoot of pride. It's an offshoot of the ego, just as the why me question is an offshoot of pride and an offshoot of the ego. Feeling that we are worthy is, again, an offshoot of pride, an offshoot of the ego. And again, we're placing the whole seeking into literally one of the 7 deadly sins, pride and ego.
Mm-hmm.
So when we just accept that we don't need to be even asking that question, because no one is worthy to stand in the presence of God. No one. But if you need something, what you can have is that we are loved. We are loved. We are under the promise of mercy, of great mercy. And so we can walk forward in confidence in knowing that we are all loved by God and that we are covered by God's mercy in our seeking. Because being worthy is an egoic goal again. We don't want to even add that to the picture here. We want to emanate a pure emanation of love, which we do not understand, honestly, until we are in that presence of that transcendental emanation of it. And it is pure and unsullied by these prideful or egoistical things that we maintain down here on the ground. And so, again, why me will throw you off. Am I worthy will throw you off. It throws you into pride and ego. Focus on you are loved, and that God's mercy is literally in so much abundance that we are only lacking in that which we choose not to receive. And we can go forth in great confidence knowing these things. But we would be very wise not to lose sight of our benefactor. Because he is a benefactor, we do not earn this. We have to go through ritual processes to become capable of doing different things and entering into higher spheres. We do have to earn things. But we do not earn God's love. We don't earn God's mercy. We receive it by our acceptance of it. And our confidence in God is our faith that fuels, that's like the rocket fuel, the confidence that we have in God's equal interest in the betterment of all human souls. And that includes me, includes you, and includes everyone who's watching. And I have great confidence in that. It is a waste of time for any of us to even pursue how to become worthy of it. We enter more and more deeply into that love and that mercy, the more that we honestly witness to our own deceptions, delusions, those things which are shown to us individually. And the more we are willing to seek God's truth, even when it contradicts what we previously believed to be true, those are the things that allow a soul to move forward more quickly. Because any of these are obstacles that become walls that hold people in place. It's a subtlety, but it's a subtlety that needs to be mentioned in this particular rite.
It's important.
Mm-hmm.
And in regards to the 28 mysteries that we're going into, how does this relate to the mysteries of the redemption?
Oh, it is the mysteries of the redemption. It's all the mysteries of the redemption. Remember what the mysteries of the redemption really are. It's what is the process in which our soul is redeemed, which means taken back by God. It can be stated as well that Christ is the mystery of the redemption. But the mysteries of the redemption themselves are the manner in which we as souls progress through the spiritual spheres and the spiritual understanding to become that which in its essence is then redeemed. And that redeemable matter is a purified thing.
Let's go into the sixth mystery, initiation into the way of life or death. So this to me is seems like a lot of choosing for our highest potential.
It is. And I just want to go back to what we were talking about, because I want to clarify the point on worthiness. Because first of all, and I don't want to make any blanket statements about, no, there's no such thing as being made more worthy or whatever. There are people like Mother Teresa and Saint Catherine of Siena and lots of people. There are different gradations of holiness, But these are all things that are not important in the sense of progressing through the rites of passage. God determines worthiness, and yes, we do have to earn our way, but at the same time, there's no way we'll ever earn redemption. Redemption is still a free gift given by God that we either accept or reject. And then all of these other processes are part of that accepting. So they're processes of, okay, I'm accepting it, so therefore I'm going to move forward through these mysteries. So I want to make it clear that when I'm saying what I'm saying about whether or not we're worthy,
It's not a blanket statement.
it's not a blanket statement, and it's really more of a point that it's not relevant. It's just not relevant because no one is worthy, and no one can stand in the holy presence of God without a great deal of purification. We have a long way to go. So
Right. We're still in the beginning stages. I mean, when you talked about when we're making the, when we're in the mortal going to the immortal, which we just did like
yeah,
in the fourth mystery, that's a very early on step in
yes.
the process. I mean, that's like, mortal to immortal. It's just like, that's the kind of one of the beginning stages. So yeah, I understand that. We're at
Well, and then when you're in this sixth mystery, you're literally, this is where you're making this decision, and you go through ritual passages that are specifically for the purpose of you're either choosing life or death. And then again, I've talked about this a lot. What does that mean? Life, creation; death, destruction; life, light; death, evil; light, goodness; darkness, uh, not goodness. Can be any level of, so light serving life, the path of death serving death. So what does that mean to serve life or serve death? Serving life is serving all of these emanations, which then are eternal. Death is the energies, the karmic energies, the mortal energies, and the dark energies that go backwards and thus extinguish because they are not immortal. They are temporary expressions, usually going in antithesis of God rather than towards Him. And so you're making decisions here. And like a couple things that are pointed out, fallbacks, no problem. Fallbacks are treated with greater severity as you come in here. This is because you should know better at this point. So that's as simple as that. It doesn't mean you won't fall, and it's this, the response to falling is the same: get back up and try again, because we're all going to fall. The just man falls 6 times a day, so we're probably going to fall about 200 or 600, or God only knows how
if we're
many.
lucky.
If we're
Hey,
lucky.
I got a little something that I thought was kind of profound. You know what the leading cause of death is?
No.
Birth. Because we're all gonna die, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of makes some resonance with this. Are we choosing the way of life or death? I mean, we're as soon as we're born, we're gonna die, man. That's and this physical body, anyways. But our soul is really the life. That's the life.
Right. And so this particular rite of passage is about choosing life as what that energy is, what life as energy is, or choosing death, which is what death is energetically. Of course, if you choose the way of death, then you're done with the rites of passage, and you can say, okay, I'm done, and walk away, because you ain't going that way no more.
I'm
So,
done.
you do have to choose life to keep progressing forward, but there, you'll be continually tried. This is a period of trial. It's going to be trials, tests, setbacks, and things like this are going to happen.
I thought it was
And
pretty cool that you came to came upon an underground cave beneath the pyramids,
Oh, yes.
wherein dwells the bluest of waters.
Yes, the bluest of waters.
So is this like, I know this is a roadmap, and you've spoken to other people that are, going through this process and reading your books, and they have come to similar experiences.
Yes, very much. And it's an interesting thing for me to hear from other people going down the paths too, who tell me this. So we do have this similar path that we can follow. One thing that even going back to all of these things we've talked about, even the worthiness question. One of the quotes in here is from a commentary on the Bible by Adam Clark on Deuteronomy 30. And he says that thou mayest love the Lord. Without love, there can be no obedience. And so this is important because this is what you're doing in choosing life or death. Is you're choosing to be obedient to the path of life, which means you are choosing to be obedient to the will of God. You are choosing to be obedient to that thrust. And so a lot of people don't understand love, and loving God is a prerequisite of being able to actually obey. And of course, in today's modern society, people are not a fan of the word obedience, but obedience is a huge part of every spiritual path. We have to be willing to be obedient to the will of the Lord. This is necessary. It is one of the virtues that we have to cultivate in order to actually proceed. And so again, another term that you might want to get comfortable with is that there is no progress without obedience in the spiritual path.
So it
And
says, without love, there can be no obedience.
right,
Without obedience, love is fruitless.
and dead. And dead. Yes. And you see, so this is actually personification of what does it mean to choose the path of life or the path of death, the way of life, the way of death. It's choosing fruitfulness or choosing cessation, because that's what death is. It's fruitless cessation.
And
It's
so we can choose
void.
our highest potential
Right.
for this lifetime, or we can invest ourselves in that which is going to die.
Yes.
Because we don't get to take
Exactly.
any of that with us, baby.
Exactly. Exactly.